Wonderful Wednesday again, and here we are in the beginning of June, June 5.
Yeah, looking forward to summer. We got beautiful weather out here, and yeah, it's a great day.
We do too. We do too. It's a beautiful day today. Hey, we're gonna start off on some public service announcements because there is this story from the Statesman's Journal that there's 20,000 pounds of beef sold in Oregon and three other states are being recalled by the USDA. What was that?
Oh, I thought if I wiped the camera, maybe that might help, but that
Oh,
was me.
okay, there we go. He's
Yeah.
he's working on his lighting over there. Oh, what is that noise?
I think it helped a little bit.
Yeah, you're good, Don. You're good.
All right.
So this beef, I wanted to mention it because it was imported from by South American Meat, and it came out of Uruguay and is sold in Oregon, Washington, California, and Arizona. And the reason they're recalling it is because it was not inspected when it was shipped into the United States. And the items were imported March 17th. And so I posted the link there. They've got frozen packages labeled all kinds of stuff, chuck roll, short rib, and it has the case code number. So if you're buying bulk meats, but I don't know, they don't say. The beef was imported by South American Meat, also known as 5 Goji LLC of Commerce, California, and sold to
Mhm.
distributors, restaurants, retailers, and institutions in the 4 states. So beware. They also have 58 printed inside the Uruguay inspection mark and on the vacuum sealed packaging. So just wanted to let you know, be careful where you get your meat.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to get us off meat. Maybe that's an effort to get us on those insects faster. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Hey, another public service announcement is tuberculosis. This is from the Epic Times. Tuberculosis makes a comeback in U.S. amid misdiagnosis and illegal immigration. And I'll tell you, that's a big deal. You know, tuberculosis it affects your lungs, and it's pretty much been eradicated here in the United States. I won't say like totally, but it's been pretty much eradicated, but not in a lot of Central and South American countries. I don't know about other nations, but for sure I do know so I know somebody who came from Peru up here on a visa and actually arrived with tuberculosis.
Mhm.
And then our health department, the federal health department, came and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, you tested we found out that you have tuberculosis," and they gave him the medicine and said, "You have to come back in for testing."
Mhm.
And it was like mandatory. This is how much medicine you take, and so on. And so
Mhm.
it needs, be just wanted to let you know it's on the rise, and it will affect us.
Right. Oh, I have no doubt that we'll probably see the same thing with mumps and measles and everything else because one of the things that used to be done was that was part of the screening process to come into the country. But if you're coming in illegally, obviously those things aren't happening. So it stands to reason you can expect an increase in precisely those kinds of communicable diseases.
In fact, it says that it's one of the world's leading killer infectious diseases,
Mhm.
and it's surging in the US with cases rising more than 9% last year. And TB kills upward of 12% of those who have been infected. And there is a cure by taking medication.
Mhm.
And there's at present an estimated 13 million people are living in the United States with latent TB infections.
Mhm.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. And TB globally is one of the most common infections, resulting in disability and premature deaths around the world. And so this is a major byproduct. If
Mhm.
epidemics and health were really in the forefront, like they're trying to say it is with COVID or
Mhm.
the bird flu, they
Mhm.
would be shutting the border down just for that,
Mhm.
but
Well,
they're not.
when you're trying to buy votes, any cost is worth it, particularly when it's somebody else's life.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's just a public service announcement. Wanted you to kind of know what's going on here. And it's actually in Washington state, they said it's been 20 years since we saw a cluster of
Mhm.
TB cases because the TB is on the rise in Washington, Texas, and California. You know, of- so they're
Yeah. You can
anyway, it's
add this to the list of reasons why we need a border wall and we need border enforcement. I mean,
yeah.
whether you want to, whether they're worried about terrorism, whether you're worried about economy and jobs for low-income people, whether you're worried about the impact on schools, whether you're worried about the impact on law enforcement, the list goes on and on. What do you call it? Gangs from outside the country. Um,
Yeah.
it's endless. If there was ever a no-brainer issue, it's that one, and likely a combination of that and the economy will determine the election.
Yes, and so another public service announcement is Merkley is holding June town halls, and I think everybody that lives in the area ought to be going and letting if you live in the area where he's holding his town halls, go and let him know how unhappy you are, or happy if you happen to be. Um, I say that tongue in cheek. So on Friday, June 7th, I posted a link there, but there's going to be a Coos County Town Hall at 12:30 at the North Bend Community Center Auditorium. And there's going to be a Curry County Town Hall also on Friday, June 7th at 4:30 p.m. at the Curry Public Library in Gold Beach. On Saturday, June 8th, the Klamath County Town Hall at noon at the Oregon Institute of Technology and College Union Building, the upper level at the Crater Lake Complex. So that's Saturday, June 8th at noon in Klamath. And then Lake County at 4 p.m. on Saturday, June 8th. And that's going to be at the Lakeview High School at 4 p.m. Sunday, June 9th, Crook County Town Hall at the Crook County Middle School Library at noon. And then at 3 p.m., they're going to be in Mitchell, Oregon, at the cafeteria at 3 p.m. at the Mitchell School cafeteria. So there is a few more public service announcements to go and meet your representatives and let them know that what you think. It's always good to go and talk with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk at them. Did you say talk at them?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I ran across a crazy story. Oregon, Portland has the theme of, keep Portland weird. Well, how weird is this? You have the rioters. This is a story out of Oregon Catalyst. You have the rioters hit cops, block ambulances. They were in Portland rioters a couple weeks ago, chained themselves to property, trespassed, vandalized, hit two officers, even hit an officer while he was injured from an apparent heart attack. It was reported that rioters even blocked an ambulance coming to the aid of the officer. And now these rioters are asking for $7,000 in compensation for mistreatment they suffered from the incident when participating in a riot they chose to do. The $7,000 is for bruising and scrapes consistent with being pushed down. What do you think of that?
Yeah, well, I believe we have a situation where the DAs have made it profitable for these people to do this, or at least There's no adverse consequence to that type of behavior. And so until that changes, it's not the police officer's fault. Generally speaking, they know who these people are. They know who's doing this, and they know that what happens is the DAs refuse to enforce the law. Now, here's the good news. And it was an article recently that was in Politico, I think, among other places. A number of articles talking about how West Coast DAs are in the spotlight. And finally, they're starting to lose elections. And this is like great news. I believe the one in LA is up for recall. San Francisco's already lost. The one in Portland's lost. And they're losing to people who are pro law enforcement. And it's unfortunate that people voted for these progressives. What they say all sounds nice. But when the rubber hits the road and the proof's in the pudding, what they're advocating does not work. And it's unfortunate those communities have to be hit in the head by a 2x4 before they realize that and vote them out. But sometimes that's what it takes. And that's clearly what it's taken in Portland, in San Francisco, in Los Angeles. And it's ugly, but it's good.
Well, it is, and so I was so happy to see that Mike Schmidt lost. Like, you're fired. The voters just fired you,
Oh,
out of Portland,
it's the
and
best
and
thing to
that's
happen to it's the best thing to happen to Portland since the Trailblazers won the championship.
there you go, there you go. You heard it right here on Captive Audience. And so I posted a link to that story, and it is good, and unfortunately it has to, we went through the defund the police movement to now record funding and trying to get police to come back, to firing those DAs, the lawless DAs that will not defend the law, will not, justice is to be blind.
Mhm.
That's why Lady Justice wears a blindfold, and you're supposed to not use it for political purposes, and clearly that's what's been done. And so these are the repercussions. I'm very, very happy that these progressive DAs are losing their grip.
Well, I think what happens with so much of the population is they vote based on emotion, on what sounds good, on the party I was in that my family was in, instead of looking at the policies and saying to themselves, "Does that make sense? Will that work?" And so that's what happens. And so what winds up happening is you vote for a bunch of stuff, and because it was your party or your candidate's personality, and then when the stuff's put into place, your neighborhood gets utterly destroyed. And it's sad, but there are consequences. Um, and and the good thing about it is that people are responding finally. It's too bad it took this for that to happen. It's too bad it's taken retailer stores to like be run out of town. You look at the empty office space in downtown Portland. It took that. uh, People sleeping under bridges, crime out of control. It's going to take decades probably to recover this. um, but it is happening, and that's good.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. And so other things with talking about laws and whatnot. This is I'm going to go switch to Trump, because the Georgia Appeals Court has halted the Trump election case. And this is a decision today. And the Georgia Court of Appeals ordered a June 5th, today, a stay on all the proceedings in Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis's case against former President Donald Trump and 8 co-defendants, challenging the district attorney's ability to prosecute the case. So this comes as the court has agreed to review whether Miss Willis should be disqualified. So they're stopping everything else um, to then have a hearing. And so apparently the defendants were notified to file a brief by June 23rd. And then the district attorney has 20 days to file a reply argument, regarding that. So that's what's happening over in Georgia.
Mhm.
And our House has today, if you didn't hear, big news. The House has recommended Oh, that's not that story. Here we go. The House has recommended criminal charges for Hunter and James Biden. So they have, and this is today, the House Oversight, the Judiciary, and Ways and Means Committees formally sent criminal referrals to the Department of Justice urging federal charges against Hunter Biden and James Biden, the son and brother of Joe Biden, and the referrals stem from false statements they made to Congress during the House Republicans' impeachment inquiry.
Mhm.
So they've found them to be not telling the truth,
Mhm.
and I personally am glad to see that. I don't know that I what's going to come of it, but I'm glad to see the referral. Now it is in the hands of Merrick Garland. What is he going to do?
Well, we'll see. Let's put it that way. These people have proven completely unprincipled. So you have to take the position that nothing will surprise you. I mean, nothing at all. I mean, just jumping back to that Florida case, for example, that DA. Um,
Yes.
I'm not sure what the calculus was for her to even bring that case. The case, given that the case had no merit, that she would risk, she had to know about her own background and what a risk that was to herself personally. What was the calculus for that? I mean, what are the payoffs for that? I just, it's just fascinating. I will say this though, there is a winner in this case that's not obvious to everyone, and that's the people of Atlanta, because surely you won't elect this person again. Um, and maybe that decision will be based on competence next time, uh, rather than
But
some.
she won her primary, I believe.
Uh, I mean, it was just recent here.
I thought so, Fannie Willis.
That's scary.
I
That's
thought
very
so.
scary. That's
Yeah,
really scary if it's true. Yeah.
I thought so. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But along with the the whole criminal deal, it's the two-tier justice system that we're seeing. Yeah, so Marjorie says she did win. So there you are. No, the people, she won her
That's,
primary.
yeah.
It's like
Well,
crazy. They rewarded her for bringing Trump to court.
yeah. Well,
For,
what can you say?
on a and it was just that
That's
was
usually recognized. There are some parts of the country where the citizenry just, I don't know what to say, aren't bright. Maybe that's the term. I mean, somebody
right.
elected Ocasio Cortez too. It'd be very curious to see if she wins again. I don't know when she's running. I don't think it's this time around, but it'll be very curious to see what happens with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
They truly wind up getting what you truly wind up getting what you vote for though, and ask the people who live in Multnomah County if you don't believe that.
Yes. And so, speaking of voting, now some former Never Trump voters say they're backing him after his conviction. And I'll tell you, with the fundraising, it's like over $100 million in 3 days. The
It's a
fundraising is off the charts. And people are seeing what is happening, and they are not liking what is happening because they realize just how crooked the whole thing is, you know. And so I saw a oh, what's his name? I watched a video that was a closing of oh, what's his name? The fellow he used to, Oprah Winfrey brought him on,
Dr.
Dr.
Phil,
Phil.
Dr.
Dr.
Phil,
Phil.
right?
And he, in his closing, I don't know, I only saw the video, and I don't know when it was. And he said in that you know what, we are we are at a dangerous precipice in our country, and the watching the rule of law or the lack thereof,
Hmm.
and people need to find. He said something to the effect that people need to really search for their own convictions and
Hmm.
their true north and follow that, and not the political bias of what's going on, because we are in such a dangerous time in our country. And I had no idea that he said I'm not saying who to vote for. I'm not picking a party, but
Mm.
we've got to look out for our country here and do what's best for our country. And I thought it was quite refreshing, and it made me realize that there are more people. He has a huge audience, and people that we certainly aren't reaching, but that he is, that they're seeing something else and they're going, oh, wow, if he's talking about it, maybe I better pay attention. And I
Right.
think that's a good thing, right?
I never thought in a million years. And the other, what's the comedian Bill Maher or whatever his name is? I never thought in a million years he'd be saying the things he's saying too. What's kind of nice about this is that what you just described is that people are able to make the distinction um, between it's not about Trump, it's not about Biden. It's about rule of law. And if we're going to continue to have a constitutional republic, you can't have things like the law being used to keep the person you're running against from competing. You just can't have that. And it doesn't matter whether you're pro this person or pro that person. If it was
Yes,
Biden, I would say the same thing. You got to have a fair election,
we
and,
do.
and doing this way shows you just how completely corrupt the establishment is. That you're that desperate to keep the will of the people from being heard. They've made it very clear what they're about.
Yes, and that's where this lawfare is really waking people up. This person, Sean McGuire, a Los Angeles-based venture capitalist and a former Hillary Clinton campaign donor, declared on social media that he donated 300,000 to Trump campaign within an hour of the verdict.
Mhm.
And he wrote in an essay, "The double standards and lawfare that Trump has faced boiled my blood." And that's absolutely right. You have to um, we were told that Trump would be the end of democracy, but it turns out the lawfare tactics have been escalated by the Democrats and not by the Republicans. And just remember, the Democrats always project what they are actually doing.
Yeah,
And they
every
project it always that this is what the Republicans will do. And no, it's actually what they're doing. So and I'm still quoting from him, and so it's from that backdrop that I believe the Republican Party is less of a danger to democracy than the Democrat Party right now. And, so people are waking up and they're saying, oh no, this isn't good. This lawfare is such a danger to our nation. And because if we don't have the rule of law
Mhm.
and it's not fair, then we don't have a country.
Well,
And
well,
you
this
and
is
I have talked
yeah.
about that a lot.
If they can do it to him, they're going to do it to you too. And they are
Yes.
doing, as we'll get to in a little bit here, they are doing it to the common citizen. And so you got to realize this is a danger to everybody. I mean, it probably has a lot less to do with Trump, in fact, than it does that. Because if this works, they'll be doing this all the time. Um, and I'll tell you one last thing, 'cause I just thought this came to me because I think it's so interesting. You're already seeing press articles they're in now big media is actually projecting that they might lose. So they're playing defense. And part of the defensive strategy is saying things like, we're afraid. They're accusing Trump was going to get in office and get revenge and go berserk trying to get revenge. So what that's designed to do is try to tamp down the willingness of a Trump administration to prosecute all of these criminals. I just think that's kind of hilarious. So anything that Trump would do, let's say he wins, anything that he would do to for his administration to prosecute all these criminals will be seen as the revenge ravings of a dictator, when in fact it's just the execution of law. So I just found that pretty interesting. But you're hearing that already.
Yeah, we are. And it isn't about Trump. It's about the rule of law and saying, "Oh no." That's why companies are fleeing New York after the verdict that he could be for a miscalculation, or saying, well, you're guilty of this because the accountant wrote you wrote this on your check,
Right.
and they're going, oh no, they're going, they're nitpicking at things that have never been brought up in court before,
Mhm.
and they're grasping at anything that they could get Trump on. And so other people are saying, this isn't about Trump. I'm no, like this one gal, her name, she says, Kate Nitty, a
Mhm.
New Jersey marketing consultant. She described herself as a long life Democrat who began
Mhm.
turning against her party when living in New York City following the COVID lockdowns,
Mhm.
voted Republican for the first time. And she said, I'm no fan of Trump. I have a huge problem with contorting the law or using prosecutorial authority in the name of saving democracy, which has been the Democrats' message for the past 4 years. And that's really what's at issue here. It is the lawfare and it's wrong.
Mhm. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah.
said.
And this article actually goes on to naming a lot of people that are just, saying the very same thing, and
Mhm.
that this is not about Trump. This is about the rule of law, and we're not going to
But
stand
yeah,
for it. And
but it's not just about the Democrats, though. How about the deafening silence of Christie and Haley? That probably doesn't surprise us a bit. They have no problem with this lawfare against Trump or with Trump possibly going to prison, which goes to show you the rhinos are as dangerous as the Democrats.
absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody should be speaking about this unjust treatment that is happening to Trump, like him or not. This is unjust. And I do believe things will get overturned in the court, but they want to label him, the convict now, right? You're convicted.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you, he's just got so much more street cred. People are
Oh,
coming out going, oh my gosh,
I even
and
saw I even saw an article. I don't know if I forwarded you this article, but someone did. It was like a one of these group studies where they took a group of people who were uh, who were uh, who were haters of both Trump and Biden, and then asked them the question: does this sway you one way or the other? And I think it was something like 70% of the people said that this stuff swayed them more towards Trump or neutral. None of them said this would sway them towards Biden. It was either it didn't change anything or it swayed them towards Trump. And the reason was because it was so blatantly unfair.
yes, and in fact, 30%, I believe it's 30% of the donors are all new donors that never donated to him before
Yeah.
because of this.
Hmm.
And Lord knows this is costing him a ton of money to defend himself with the lawyers and the army of lawyers, and those lawyers are then being persecuted, for using lawfare to try to take their law licenses away. It's just crazy. It's crazy. But back to your point, here we have Nikki Haley, and Chris Christie being very quiet and not talking about this. And why? Why would you be?
Mm.
Because they would be happy with this.
Yes,
They
because
would be
they're
happy with
yeah,
this.
they're both tied into this. They're both well, they're progressives with an R behind their name. That's what they are.
Yes. Yes, they are. Don't ever be fooled by them. Ever, 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 ever. And I heard somebody the other day, it was on a program saying, well, there's lots of rumor about Nikki Haley. And actually, it was on Newsmax, Greg Kelly's program. And he and Trump came on via phone. And Greg Kelly asked him, well, we're hearing rumors about Nikki Haley. And Trump never squashed the rumors. He
Mhm.
didn't also say, well, that's a person that I'm considering. He actually talked about other people and the good things that they're doing. And then kind of the negative, he talked a bit negatively about Nikki Haley. And
Yeah,
she is a never Trumper. She's a never Trumper, and she would
yeah.
be a disaster as a VP.
I can't imagine. I'll go a step further. I can't imagine her getting a position anywhere in the cabinet or in the administration. I mean, I just can't. You're better off with like a moderate Democrat, um, maybe like Manchin, someone like that. She's the enemy,
Yeah.
plain and
Yeah.
simple.
I agree with you.
Don't,
I
don't
agree
know
with you
why
on
she don't
that.
know why she has the R behind her name, but she's no better than Romney or
Because
Christie.
she's still masquerading. She's
Yeah,
still
yeah,
masquerading. She's
right.
not willing to come out of the closet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are some who think that, and I talk to people like this who think that
Hmm.
because she fits more the look, if you will, and then she's a woman
Right.
on top of that, and she's held high office. But none of that matters if your principles don't align.
No, no, 100%. So, and going about the lawfare, there's a 75-year-old woman is given prison time for an abortion protest. And she is, and now it's in front of, Merrick Garland.
Mhm.
She was praying in front of an abortion clinic. She's in a wheelchair, and she has now been convicted of and sentenced to 2 years
Mhm.
for praying in a sentence. Paulette Harlow is her name. And this case was on May 31st. And she was sentenced to 2 years in prison following her convictions for federal conspiracy against rights and freedom of access to clinic entrances.
Mhm.
And in connection to a blockade of Washington, D.C., at an abortion clinic on October 22nd of 2020.
Mhm.
So 10 people decided to go out in front of an abortion clinic, and she's the last one.
So this is Washington D.C., right?
Yep.
Yeah, so she committed a couple of crimes here against the liberal theocracy.
Yes.
The first one is the crime about praying in public. You know that religious stuff, supposed to keep that in the closet and not be talking about it, right? So that's the first crime. But the more egregious crime is she's protesting against the against the Planned Parenthood's ability to make money off killing black babies. It is Washington D.C., which we know is probably 80% black or something, right? And we
Yeah.
know whose babies get killed the most. That's what Democrats love. That's their altar. That's the altar they make the sacrifice on, and they prove it all the time.
Yes, they have, and it's a real shame. And the judge, Colleen Collar Catelli, actually found Harlow's husband had pled for leniency because she suffers from Hashimoto's disease. She's 75, back pain. She's requires her to use a wheelchair. And her husband had said, I feel like Paulette is dying. In my heart, I think she's having a hard time staying alive. And yet, the judge found her husband's pleas for leniency amusing and took the opportunity to make light of the situation, saying that maybe Harlow would make an effort to remain alive because that is a tenet of her religion. I mean, that's just a disgusting statement by a judge.
Yeah. Well,
By a
that that
judge.
yeah, that statement tells you these people are animated by something else. Um, something outside time, space, and matter, and not the good one either.
Yeah, yeah, yes. So there is a story, changing gears a little bit. There's a story out of Australia that COVID-19 vaccines are one likely factor behind 20,000 excess deaths. And this is out of a parliamentary inquiry. And so it says that the COVID-19 vaccines and pandemic lockdowns are likely a strong contributing factor to nearly 20,000 excess deaths in Australia during the 2020 to 2023 period. And this is written by a Martin Stewart, who's a 14 years of experience as a biomedical researcher. And he's worked with other laboratories and people that have they've named the founder. Let's see, he also worked with Robert Langer Laboratory, named after the founder of Moderna, who produced the vaccine. And so they had some investigations and inquiries, and that is the outcome, that they believe that according to the data from the Australian Bureau of Statistics, excess deaths in Australia during the pandemic era reached 30,000, over 30,000. And of this, the total number of excess deaths deemed unrelated to COVID was COVID-19 was just under 20,000, 19,401.
And you have to realize Australia is a lot smaller country than the United States. I mean, 20 or 30,000 is a big number anywhere. But in Australia, I can't recall what its population is, but it's not, I think it's on the order of like Canada in terms of size, which is around the size of the state of California, 25, 30 million, right? That is a huge number of excess deaths. And enough that people know people. And
Yeah.
I can't remember who I was talking to about this, but if you work in an environment where you're not interacting with the general public very much, you may not see this. But people who interact with the general public all the time, think about people in retail type positions or certainly the medicals, hospitals, they see it. They don't need a study. I know several physicians and people in the profession who they were saying this when this stuff first happened, how many people they were seeing who get the shot and 2 weeks later just be like nuked by it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
And
what's amazing is that the press is finally reporting it. That's what's amazing about it.
it is. And I've watched a little bit of the Fauci testimony, and I'll tell you, it's amazing how somebody just lies and lies and lies and lies. But he's been lying ever since,
Sure.
but now he's admitting, well, I just made it up. I just made up 6 feet. I just made up stuff. Wear a mask, because if you remember, and we all do, you don't have to wear a mask. That was the very first thing he said. No, 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 there's no reason to wear a mask. And then it was a few months later, oh, everybody must wear a mask. And by God, you better wear 2 or 3 of them by the end of this. Well, Australia had severe lockdowns, and they most of the states in Australia reached 90% or more vaccination rate by December of 2021.
Yeah.
And so these deaths are associated.
Yeah, Australia had like concentration camps.
They
They were
did.
rounding people up off
Yeah.
the street.
Yeah. Really, really. And I'll tell you, I always thought New Zealand and Australia were very free and open countries, and learned that's not the case. And it's an island. You can't go anywhere, unless you're getting on a plane or in a boat.
Hmm. Well, what happens is these countries, a lot of these Western countries, and I'll call that West because they have basically Western civilization. Um, they have huge governments, gigantic social networks, and they have a tradition where people just do what they're told. And probably the one common denominator amongst all these countries, they don't
Mhm.
have a Second Amendment.
Right.
They don't have a
Right. They
Second
don't.
Amendment, right? So they're reliant on the government for everything. It's hard to say no when you don't have a gun.
Yeah. So I just posted this story that's at the Epic Times, because it's also there. It's the cardiac damage. There's a study, a 2023 study out of Switzerland. Then professor of cardiology. It was led by a professor of cardiology at the University of Basel, and
Mhm.
that indicated mRNA recipients experience cardiac damage at a higher rate than untreated people. Among 777 participants, 40% exhibited elevated high sensitivity cardiac issues on day 3
Mhm.
of their injection. And so, this is, I have a doctor friend when all of this was going down that said, don't ever get this shot because of myocarditis.
Yeah.
And it's
Here's
a retired doctor friend. And
Mhm.
this is something that has been lied about and swept under the rug. And yet so many people here in the United States, but around the world, are afflicted with this. And it's not just the seniors, it is the children.
Here's the thing that gets me, though, not to go all conspiracy theory on you, but given the events of the last 4 years, I don't think anybody will call you crazy for being a conspiracy theorist. But why are they letting the media talk about this now? This was so locked down, and they would like not let you. They would not say anything about this, even though it's
Right.
obvious. Just before the election, I haven't been able to noodle around why it's suddenly okay to speak to this. Now, I don't know that they've any major organizations in the United States have said it as because these are big publications in Australia. I think I saw one
Yes.
in Great Britain. It wasn't Lancet, but it was a major medical publication in Great Britain that did the same thing with regard to AstraZeneca's version of this. So I just don't know. And I hear what Bobby's saying about the election, but this doesn't help their side um, unless they want to somehow try to pin it on Trump.
Yeah, I don't know.
But Trump didn't
It's
mandate anything.
pardon?
But Trump didn't mandate anything.
No.
So I don't see what the play is there anyway.
No, he didn't. And so, this is a very interesting article with a lot of information in it. And there were adverse events in 81%
Mhm.
of all the reports in the working age group of 18 to 64.
Well,
This is
yeah.
huge,
Here's a shocking stat for it. I should have
huge.
sent you this. My wife sent me an article. It was a study done in Washington State. 98% of Washington State's adults got the shot, at least one.
Wow.
That that is like stunning.
Wow.
I mean, if you'd have asked me, I'd have said 70%, right? But 98% did what Big Brother told them to do.
Yeah. And I see what Kathy said that he pushed the shots. And Trump actually didn't. He's the one who talked about ivermectin and some other drug. Um, and then they immediately shut that down. And they
Yeah.
said, "Oh no!" And then the FDA says, "Oh, you can't use that for off-label use," which it's been used for off-label use for years,
Mhm.
and
Horse pill. Remember that? The whole
right, exactly. So it was no, all everything happened, and Fauci, in my opinion, he should be getting strung up,
yeah,
strung up.
and the same with this mandate thing. I mean, the very word should scare any American. We're
Yes,
supposed to be a country, home of the free, land of the free, home of the brave. Somebody walks around. You know what mandate means? That means I'm mandatory making you do something. What is
yeah.
wrong with us that we're going to let a governor tell us what to do? That should have been, if nothing else, at a minimum, the House votes on that, and then we make a decision. The way we usually do things. We let that go on. It's just stunning that so many of our fellow citizens can't see that. These governors became dictators.
Well, and then the governors are now saying that, well, no, it was just a recommendation. It
Yeah,
wasn't a mandate, it was a recommendation.
just
But
just
yet
lose your
people
just lose
lost
your
their
job. That's
jobs.
yeah, it's a recommendation. If you like your job, though, you'll get the shot.
Yeah, yeah.
If you want to participate in
No.
regular life, you'll get your shot. If you want to go to a restaurant, you'll get your shot. But it's just a recommendation.
And so I'll tell you the good news is the truth is coming out that and we need to have tribunal trials and hold these people accountable and these organizations accountable that we're doing this. And we need to defund all of this gain of function research. That's my opinion. I think we shouldn't, that we're messing with nature. We don't need this. Well, this is just an accident waiting to happen. And the more that I read about that, the more that I realize it's been going on for a long time, and other illnesses that we have been a result of early gain of function research that we're taking an illness that animals have and making it so humans can get them because pharmacology wants us all taking medicine.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh no doubt about it. And the other thing is, there should be no product or service where liability is removed. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
The government will force you to take something, and then you don't even have the ability to get compensated for any damage it might do to you. Another 100% un-American thing that was done here. And these pharmaceutical companies, I'm telling you, it needs to be Nuremberg time for them. Um,
It does, and it's against the Geneva Convention, the whole thing. I mean, it was unlawful around the world, unlawful, but it was by design.
mm,
It was, I believe, by design.
yeah, it's that just doesn't fall into place by itself.
No, no, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So, another one, let's see. Uh, you know what else is interesting that they're talking about now? The Wall Street Journal is out with a bombshell report showing that President Biden isn't all there. This is what we've known.
Is that a bombshell?
Yeah. Well, it's a bombshell that the Wall Street Journal is actually saying it.
That's true.
It's what we've known.
Yeah.
And they've buried their head in the sand, all over the place about, no, he's okay, but they've got him in special shoes. He's using the short ladder on the plane. I mean, you just look at him. He can't find his way. You have people escorting him into places without trying to look like they're escorting him. And
Yeah.
this is out of the NRCC,
Hmm.
conservative caucus, National Republican Conservative Caucus.
Hmm.
And I'm going to post this here because this report is, they're saying the quiet part out loud. And
I got
finally,
I got to ask our audience this. And you might remember this movie. There was a movie made by Peter Sellers where this guy, is like the gardener, gets elected president, and they think he's smart and he's really like mentally deficient, and it absolutely is hilarious. And whenever I see Biden, I think about that movie. Does anybody out there remember that movie? Late '60s, Peter Sellers. It's classic. It's Biden. I'm telling you.
so in this story, it says House Dems say what? And so they've buried their head in the sand about the president's mental shortcomings. So the NRCC National Press Secretary Will Reinhardt said the Wall Street Journal report raises doubts that Joe Biden can even still count to 4. But extreme House Democrats want 4 more years. That's because he's the puppet, and we all know it.
Okay, here's your movie recommendation for the night. The name of the movie is Being There. In 1979, Peter Sellers, and you will die laughing. It's about a president who's not even mentally insufficient. And I'm telling you, once
We're
again,
living it.
we're living it.
We're living it. Okay, I got one more for you. This is the last one. Val Hoyle, who is in CD4 running for re-election, and Monique Despain is running against her. Val Hoyle just voted to obstruct military and veteran funding. And so extreme Democrat Val Hoyle, this is from the NRCC as well.
Mhm.
Extreme Democrat Val Hoyle just voted against critical funding for our military and veterans because the bill prohibits sidetracking the VA to pay for free health care for illegal immigrants. And Hoyle's outrageous vote makes clear about where her true loyalties lie, and it's not with the American people or those who defend our freedoms. So she voted against fully funding veterans' health care and benefits, and voted to block pay raises for active duty military in last July.
Wow. Wow.
So, we need to do all that we can to help Monique Despain get elected in CD4 and send another Republican to the House and give us another vote in the House. I mean, we've got to do that. We need to help her get elected.
The best disinfectant against bugs and roaches is light. We need to shine the light on these people because they are roaches and bugs. What can you say?
Yep. Okay, everybody. Well, share and share and share. And listen, I'm not going to be on Friday. I will tell you next week where I went, but I'm taking my mother on a special trip. And I'm just going to leave you wondering where we're going, and I'll tell you all about it next Wednesday.
Well,
So,
I'm curious now.
if you don't see it on social media before Wednesday. So, but I will tell you all about it on Wednesday. So, have a good night and share and share and share and share.
You all take
Thank
care. That
you.
was a fast 50 minutes. Enjoyed you all.